Toby, sponsors make the world go round, and we've got a few that makes our tiny little NASCAR world go round. No?
Yes, we
Okay.
do. So we do. We start the show off each week with our sponsors, the folks that are at the only at Mattress Giant level tier or higher on the Patreon page. Let's go through that right now. We've got some awesome people who contribute to this here show. We've got Joe Bike, the original patron of the show. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you, buddy. We've also got, how about this? David Letchworth over there at the only at Mattress Giant level tier. Thank you, David. We appreciate you, buddy. And of
Nice.
course, we've got Devin as well, sitting there at the only at Mattress Giant level tier as well. So really cool to see. And I think, let me make sure. Yes, that is all of our group there. So very cool to see.
Let's get into it. This is the Final Lap Weekly, a show that a couple of guys talk about all things NASCAR, oddly enough. My name's Kerry Murphy, longtime host of All Things The Final Lap. Co-host right there is Toby Christie, founder and editor-in-chief at TobyChristieCom, as well as editor-in-chief at RacingAmerica.com. We've got lots to talk about. Oh, and we got Rowdy Dragon coming up in just a few minutes with his
I'm
fantasy
excited.
NASCAR picks.
I'm excited because I need his help. I am struggling. I don't know. Like I keep having. So I had a great race going this week. I had Erik Jones, who was running so great, and
Me
that's what.
too! Me too! Damn you,
Ah,
Erik Jones!
no, damn you, Chase Briscoe. You put Erik
Yeah,
Jones on the wall there with that four wide move, and that really
that's
ruined our
true.
day. So I know Erik Jones is miffed with Chase Briscoe, and now we also have some beef with Chase as well. So
Yep.
Mr. Briscoe, stop doing that. Come on, that really ruins our fantasy days.
Yeah, your hairline's not getting any better by doing that.
No, it's not. I'm going to be like Kerry Murphy by the end of the mid part of the season. It's going to be bad.
No, that was a dig at Chase.
Oh, okay. You're talking about his hairline, not mine. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, totally. So yeah, we had quite the interesting weekend at Phoenix for sure.
Yeah, so I know first race with the new short track package.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No. Sorry. Not a
You didn't
short
like it?
track.
Well,
No.
short track package, not short track
Yes.
race, short track package.
All right.
And I don't know. I thought it was better than the last couple races at Phoenix have been with the old package. Overall, I didn't think it was as stout as the first three races, but you have two super speedway events, and then just a pretty good race there at Las Vegas. It's kind of hard to outdo those with a Phoenix race, but I feel like this package did improve a little bit. There's been some discussions this week with Denny Hamlin, several other guys, about possibly adding horsepower to the mix, and they think
They
that would
want
help improve things.
lots of horsepower too, like 1,000.
Well, so Denny Hamlin said ultimately he'd love to have 900. Everybody'd love to have at least 900. But he says realistically, they just bumped it to 725-ish or something like that. He thinks that there'd be enough of a difference to see people making moves out on the racetrack, being able to make these passes where they get stuck behind somebody due to the air kind of making it where they can't get around them. Now, the other side of that is if you add the horsepower, do we get the long breakaways like we used to have in the past where there aren't these big sections of cars wadded up in these big packs at all these different kinds of tracks? And then do fans think that's good? Because that was the complaint before with the previous gen car before they went to the 550 package was that things got really strung out at places like Phoenix and places like Texas and places like Las Vegas last week where things were pretty stout and pretty close. So it's one of those things where it's yes, horsepower sounds great. I'd love to see more horsepower myself. I think when the drivers have to put it in their own hands and they have the tools and the abilities to be able to pass and do what they need to do, that's great. But at the same time, we open ourselves up to those situations we've had in the past that we also didn't like. So it's a weird balancing act, and I don't know what the cure all would be.
Every year, it's something with these drivers. They always want something. Nothing is ever perfect. Why can't the
Well,
car just be great?
so the thing is, it's never going to be perfect, and so that is the problem. So what imperfect is the better of the lesser evils at this point? Uh, I think overall, cars being closer on track optically is the better option. And I think you like when we were going to this next gen car and the lack of horsepower was the thing in the last gen, drivers were really upset that they didn't really drive the cars anymore. It was just hold the gas down, hope for the best, just do whatever. I feel like since we moved to this next gen car, even though sure the horsepower is lower, the drivers still have to drive these things. They're not perfectly handling. There's something where we've seen guys just lose it on their own. We saw Josh Berry in qualifying this week, spin out and crash on his own.
Yep.
That's something you didn't see in that last gen car at all. I mean, it was just a very rare occurrence when somebody would crash in qualifying or something like that just on their own. It was an impossible car to crash almost, it felt like, with how the sides of the car were like a huge billboard and caught the air, and every time you kicked sideways, it would correct itself. These new cars, without that really flat right side and weird skew and all that stuff, really makes it hard to handle. And I think that is the more compelling thing for me, even if the horsepower levels aren't super high.
All right, let's get into the podium finish, the top 3 drivers at Phoenix Raceway. And the first one on the list here is part of Toby's take over there at racingamerica.com. Go check out that article. Ty Gibbs knocking on the door of his first win, so you say.
I mean, I don't see how you could see it any other way. He led almost the entire opening stage. Of course, got passed with a couple laps to go with Tyler Reddick, but still found himself up in the mix there for the stage 1 win. Kind of tapered off mid-race, had some bad stuff on pit road. A few other things happened, and he was kind of mired back, but battled his way back in the final stage. Got a solid 3rd place finish. Career best finish, by the way. And, he's got the best average finish in the Cup Series after 4 races this season. I feel like Ty Gibbs, like I said in that story on racingamerica.com, I truly feel it. I think Ty Gibbs, the win's coming. And once the win does come, people might be in trouble because this guy's shown once he gets it in other series he's run in, he gets it pretty well.
What a recovery for this next guy. He goes from last at the previous race to finishing 2nd with a couple of crew members down, or replacement members. Chris Buescher.
I mean, that's insane because when you looked at how they were running the entire race, the RFK teams in general, because Brad Keselowski also finished 4th, they were kind of like that 10th to 15th place team all race long, both of them. And it didn't look like they really had much, but then, you get towards the final stage and Brad Keselowski works his way into the top 5, misses a spinning Denny Hamlin. That was a close call for him. He was the guy that kind of came through there with that consumer wireless car, so barely avoided that. Kept things going, but Chris Buescher and his crew chief, Scott Graves, they made an incredible call to kind of roll the dice on being able to extend the fuel mileage in that car. So they pitted a little earlier than everybody else, which gave them the track position they needed late in this race to get up in the front and have a chance. And on that final run of the race, he went from like 7th all the way up to 2nd and just kind of reeled his way up there. Once he had the track position, that car was good enough to make some passes. He and his teammate Brad Keselowski were both good enough down the long run to get a lot of positions and got 2 solid top 5s for RFK.
Let's head to victory lane now. Christopher Bell, 7th career win, 4th straight season with a win for C. Bell, and he's obviously locked into the playoffs. And it's the first Toyota win of 2024, if you can believe it.
Yeah, that's wild because they've been really fast at a lot of places, but Chevrolet had been getting it done. This is the first non-Chevy win of the 2024 Cup Series season. But for Christopher Bell, this is sweet poetic justice because he's been really good at Phoenix and went into the championship 4 last year with a shot to win the title. Brake rotor explodes early in that race and is unable to chase for the championship. So comes back to Phoenix this time around and gets it done. I mean, that's the way you want to do it at a track where you saw possibly the biggest heartbreak to this point in his career because he had the first championship 4 appearance the year before, but he really felt like he was ready last year to contend for a championship as he was going into that race at Phoenix, and it all came undone early on with the brake rotor issue. So to come back, put this kind of performance in, led 50 laps, won stage 2, wins the race, he's got to feel confidence going into Phoenix later on in November. And the Toyotas as a whole dominated this race. I mean, I think all but 13 or 14 laps the Toyotas led, and that was just Todd Gilliland who was leading during pit flag cycles. He was staying out long on a green flag run. So really, really dominant day for Toyota.
We are going to get into the news of the week over there at TobyChristie.com in just a few minutes. But first, we've got Rowdy Dragon and his fantasy NASCAR picks for this coming weekend at Bristol, as well as a little recap of his own from Phoenix Raceway. Rowdy Dragon, take it away with your fantasy NASCAR stuff, dude.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time you're listening to this, you have made it to the Final Lap Weekly Fantasy segment of the show. I'm your host, Rowdy Dragon. Well, we're fresh out of the desert in Phoenix, and we're headed over to Thunder Valley, Bristol Motor Speedway, But before we head over to Bristol, let's take a look and see who dominated the stages and won over here in Phoenix. Your first stage goes to Northern Leaguer. Stage 2, we have a tie with Byron Rules and PWC Racing. For your winner, you've got Dale Doe. And have a look at this. Yours truly, Rowdy Dragon. Captured a win early this season again. Both Dale and myself, we maxed out at 262 points, 63 stage points, and I might add that I won this track last season, maximum points once again. It's hard enough to win these, but to get maximum points twice in a row, 2 years in a row, that's something I've never done or seen before. And Dale, you should give yourself a nice big pat on the back. Good job maxing out on the points. All right, now let's take a look at the race standings for Rowdy, Toby, Kerry, and our oh-so-generous sponsors. You heard Rowdy Dragon. I finished in P1, and that pulls me up into the 21st position in the league. Toby Christie, he had a pretty good day, finishing P58. He is now sitting in the 67th spot, and he got around Kerry this week because Kerry finished in the 187th spot, and he slid back to P101. Joe Bike, he finished in the 87th position and is currently sitting in 93rd. And our final sponsor, Devin, DL Racing King, finished in 190th, currently 170th in the league. Okay, we've got 3 good driver picks to look at this week. Last week, I wasn't too sure on how the Toyotas would perform, so I left them out of my featured picks. But this goes to show you how important practice and qualifying is. They dominated, so I did a complete rearrangement of my team, and you see what happened. So, like I've been preaching, practice and qualifying is super important if you want to get anywhere in this game. All right, so I digress. Let's look at our first featured pick, the 5-car, Kyle Larson. He's got 15 races run at the track with an average finish of 12.1. He's got 5 top 5 finishes, finishing 1/3 of his races in the top 5 and finishing in the top 10 in 2/3 of his races. That's 10 finishes in the top 10 out of 15 races. Laps led has Kyle Larson at 870. That averages out to 58 laps led per race. He has 1 win at the track. Looking at his stage point picture, has him collecting stage points in 15 out of 18 tries, 3 of those being stage wins. Now, Thunder Valley has been a good track for Larson. In his last 9 races on the concrete, he has all top 10 finishes but 1, and ranks P1 in average finish with 5.3 being his average. During this period is where he got all of those top 5 finishes I mentioned a moment ago. Look for Larson to be racing the high line along the wall, as he's one of the best at running the cushion, and lots of speed can be found there as he's shown in the past. He will be a contender on Sunday. Keep an eye on his practice speeds, and if his times fall short like last week, sit him out, but that's an unlikely scenario. Okay, moving on to our second driver, the 11-car of Denny Hamlin. He's got 33 races run at the track with an average finish of 13.9. He has 10 top 5 finishes, finishing up the top 5 in 30% of his runs. 17 top 10 finishes has him averaging up in the top 10 in 52% of his races. Denny has 1,036 laps led. That averages out to 31.39 laps led per race. He has 3 wins at the track. Looking at Denny's stage point picture has him collecting stage points 10 times out of 24 tries, 1 of those being a stage win. Looking at Denny's stats for the 2 years in the next-gen car has him averaging 5.0 with a 7.1 average running position, and during this period, he collected 1 win. In the last outing at Phoenix, Denny's total speed ranking was 2nd, his green flag speed was 2nd, he was fastest late in a run, he had the fastest 4th segment speed, and claimed the trophy for himself while beating your favorite driver on the weekend. That 11 car should be considered for your lineups on Sunday. Okay, our final driver for the week. Yes, I'm high on Toyota. We saw what they did on the short tracks. Why don't we take a look at the 20-car Christopher Bell? He has 5 races run in Thunder Valley. His average finish is 14.6. He has 2 top 5 finishes, finishing up the top 5 in 40% of his runs. He has 3 top 10 finishes, finishing up the top 10 in 60% of his races. He has 331 laps led and still looking for his first win. Bell has collected stage points in 7 out of 12 tries, 3 of those being stage wins. And in the last 2 races in the next-gen car, he has claimed 1st or 2nd in the stages. Pretty good. See, Bell, he's on a momentum swing with his win at Phoenix and has shown that Toyota means business on the flat track circuit. This momentum should carry the team far this weekend, as they already have a great platform to start with. Looking at his next-gen stats has Bell finishing top 5 in both races, with driver ratings north of the 130 mark, not far off from a perfect 150. In terms of speed, for the 23 season at Bristol, Seabell is listed first in total speed rankings, first in green flag speed, and had the third best fourth segment speed, finishing the race in P3. Bell should be a lock for your lineups for the weekend. All right, that does it over here for the picks for this week. Now looking back at the league, we had a little jump in the players again. About 4 more people joined us. I think one of those people was Joseph Shrigley. I saw some score for Shrigley stats down there. Well, welcome into all of you new players. And for all the rest of you, good luck catching this week's current points leader, UKCL 7 fan. Looks like we have a fan from across the pond that is a Core LaJoy fan. And they are currently leading the Final Lap Weekly Fantasy League. All right, folks, that about does it for me over here today. But before I go, I want to invite you over to listen to Rowdy Dragon's NASCAR Fantasy Sportsbook, breaking down all these head-to-head matches, trying to make it easier for you to decide on who you like. Come on over to TobyChristieCom and check it out. All right, folks, that's it for me here. Thanks for hanging out and listening to the Final Lap Weekly Fantasy segment of the show. I am Rowdy Dragon. I'll be back again next week.
There you go.
Fantasy NASCAR stuff, dude.
Rowdy Dragon with your fantasy NASCAR stuff. That's the official terminology we like to have here. And interesting picks from Rowdy Dragon there. We got the 5 of Kyle Larson to recap, the 11 of Denny Hamlin, and the 20. There you go.
Yeah, so there it is. I need to use some of the advice because, man, it has been a really rough start to the year for me. I saw Rowdy Dragon work his way up the rankings. I saw him up there at like 20th or something. So
yep,
he's heading in the right direction. We're heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I had a rough week as well. So I mean, can't win them all.
Literally. So out of my, what did we have 5 guys on the starting roster, right? 4 of my 5 were in the top 6 drivers' point earnings in the race. And then I had Erik Jones, who would have been up there,
right?
Had it not been for the issue. So it just shows how one little miscue can ruin your entire race in these fantasy games.
It's amazing how you have to be darn near perfect.
Yeah, I mean, that's how good this league is that we're in. I mean, it's pretty impressive because, like I said, I really felt good about it. And even with the Jones thing, I was like, okay, well, that's one guy that had a problem. I'm still good. No, you've got to be 100% on it. If you miss one thing in this Final Lap Fantasy League, you're in trouble. So,
man, I dropped a lot too. I dropped to 101st.
I'm almost there with you then, I think. I'm getting close. So,
oh man. And Rowdy, I just saw him. Rowdy's 21st. So yeah, he had a great week. Holy cow.
Huge moves for him. So Rowdy's on it. We need to pick up the pace a little bit ourselves, but I'm happy that you're closer to me. That makes me feel a little better.
I'm trying to find you here. Joe Bike is 93rd. I'm sure Rowdy went over all of this.
Let's see. I'm 67th. I'm ahead of you.
Oh, you're way ahead. So you actually had a better week than you thought.
Okay, yeah, because I thought I was like 100 and something. Maybe it was 100 and something for the weekend. Because
damn.
Wow. Well, how the tables have turned, Kerry Murphy.
All right. Calm down. We'll
have to see how things go.
Yeah, it's only like race 5, right?
Well, yeah, now we're going to Bristol where people are all mad at each other, and we've got Briscoe and Jones to watch out for and a few others. So
there you go.
How that goes.
Let's head to TobyChristie.com. Let's do it all together. You, as you're listening, go there now, and just it's amazing. I pull up TobyChristie.com, and it's like a racing command center, and I don't even have to touch anything. It's all just flying by, and I get to read stuff, and no scrolling. It's awesome.
That's right. You can toggle what series you want there at the top to kind of get the latest 5 stories. So good stuff. It's pretty easy to use.
So what's the deal here with the Colleague Racing sponsorship stuff?
So the last couple of years, Colleague Racing's had a partnership with Food City, who sponsors the spring race at Bristol, whether it be the dirt race or now back to concrete like it is this year.
Oh, thank you. You. Oh God, I hated that. Can we all say that now? I hated that.
And as part of that sponsorship situation, you've seen the last couple of years, like the Tide and Gain cars and stuff like that in this race have been B2B partnerships with Food City. And that's what this is again. So the Mountain Dew Cheetos car that you will see AJ Allmendinger pilot, which, man, who doesn't love some Mountain Dew and some Cheetos, right?
Yeah, that's like binging kind of stuff late at night, and you're video gaming and all that stuff.
Yeah, I like my liquids green and I like my snacks orange. So
What kind of poop does that make?
I don't think we want to know. So much for those sponsorships for us, but that's okay. But yeah, so it's a really cool looking car, a black base coat there. You can see it on TobyChristieCom. Cool green and orange accents. Looks really cool. And it's cool to see those two brands, even if it's through a B2B partnership, are back in the Cup Series. Really, really cool to see. And, AJ has only run one Cup race this year, Daytona 500 being that race. Finished sixth, and that colleague team could use some help there this weekend. So we'll see if he gets it done for them.
Disaster has struck for a Stewart-Haas hauler. What's going on there?
Yeah, so the hauler that was swapping out the cars from Vegas to Phoenix was involved in an accident on the way back from Vegas and Phoenix, I guess. They swapped out the cars. So
Yep.
The cars from the Vegas race were involved in this hauler incident. A car.
By the way, those usually happen in some random hotel parking lot, and it's quite the sight to see.
Yeah, it is. It is quite funny. If you've never seen it, it's interesting. So the big blank white hauler from Stewart-Haas Racing, which is their R&D hauler, which they use to swap out the cars, had stopped on the side of the road in Texas. The city is escaping me at this moment, but somewhere over near El Paso, they stopped on the side of the road. A car sideswiped them, and onward was the crash on the interstate there. So
Geronimo, Texas.
Geronimo, that's it. Yes, Geronimo. I should have remembered that. So yeah, Geronimo, Texas is where the incident happened. Luckily, not huge damage for the hauler. They were able to get back to North Carolina, and things are safe and sound. Unfortunately, they had already done the swap, so there was no issues with the Phoenix cars. They were able to get it there, and pretty good runs with Chase Briscoe. Damn you, Chase Briscoe, and Noah Gragson again with a solid 12th place finish. So I mean, he almost had a top 10 again. Really, really good runs for both those guys.
Totally. What else we got going on here on the website?
Well, I mean, you look at it, we've got a new sponsor there for Kyle Busch. A lot of people have been keeping up with the sponsorships there at RCR, and FICO, myfico.com will be sponsoring the number 8 car this weekend at Bristol and multiple races this year, and pretty spiffy looking blue and white paint scheme, right?
He's had a really bad season, so it's amazing anybody even wants to look at him.
Well, so you say he's had a bad season, but they've had speed. He's led double-digit laps in 3 of the 4 races.
Yep.
This week at Phoenix was probably his worst overall race himself, but the pit crew's also kind of not done them any favors up until this week. But even with all the bad luck in the pits and on the track this week at Phoenix, they're sitting 11th points. I mean, they've really not had a bad run other than this weekend at Phoenix. So they've had speed each week, so they just need to close it out.
Yeah, for sure. What's going on in the Xfinity series over here?
Man, so the 88 car, Junior Motorsports, we talked about Bubba Pollard, the short track ace. He'll be getting his Xfinity Series debut here at Richmond. Connor Zilish, by the way, the 17-year-old Trackhouse Racing protege, will be getting his Xfinity Series debut at Watkins Glen in September in the 88 for Junior Motorsports. He'll also be running 3 other races as well. I want to say it was Kansas, Phoenix, and there was one more, Homestead. So 3 ovals and a road course. Zilish, by the way, has been running a bunch of road racing stuff in the Trans Am series and things like that. So very well versed on road courses. And we're going to see how good he is on these ovals here in this little stretch with Junior Motorsports. But big things for this guy. He was part of one of the teams that won during the Rolex 24 this year at only 17 years old. He's already got a big old hunkin' Rolex on his wrist. So there's a lot in the future for this kid.
Yeah, I would put that thing on my left wrist, especially if you're turning left in the car. It kind of weights the steering wheel down a little bit. It probably helps you.
That's true. That's a good point. You don't have to worry about the endurance factor because you can just use that thing to pull it down for you.
Especially if you've got 24 Rolexes.
That's true. If you had 24 of them, just strap them all on that one arm. You're good to go.
Absolutely. Chandler Smith grabbing a win this past weekend.
Yeah, he did. So that was big. He moved to Joe Gibbs Racing in the offseason, and the big question was, okay, how would he perform? He's run really well in every race this season. I think he's had top 5 finishes in every race. His average finish is like second or something like that. And finally got it done this weekend with a solid performance there at Phoenix. Now, it looked like Justin Allgaier was going to win this race. Okay, Justin Allgaier had the lead, and a commanding lead at that with like 5 laps to go. Unfortunately, the left rear tire shredded on the number 7 car. He went spinning, backed it into the outside wall really hard.
And that car is unrecognizable after that wreck.
Yeah. I mean, it was obliterated. So massive crash there for Justin. Thankfully, he got out. He was kind of frustrated. You can see through like the threw the trunk deck lid back at the car and stuff like that. He was a little frustrated by it, and understandably so. He had a win sewed up. That's got to be so frustrating. But yeah, Chandler Smith was there to pick up the pieces, and Jesse Love, by the way, the rookie contender there in the Xfinity Series, finishes second. He's been very good, led a lot of laps. He's already won 3 stages this year, and comes up very close to a win as well this week at Phoenix. So big stuff all around for everybody in the Xfinity world this week.
Justin Allgaier mad at his race car. How do you think the race car feels? He's no longer a race car.
And he's like, dude, what happened? I was just about to win a race as a race car, and you ruined me. What happened, man?
I'm going to Junior's backyard now.
I feel like Allgaier has like the worst luck when tires go down. He always has them go down right at the entrance of a corner. It's never like down the straightaway where he's like, oh,
Right.
okay, I got a problem. Let me slow it down. It's always as he's like braking to go into the turn, pop, and then spins around, and that's it. So
Yeah.
real big bummer there for a
Let's-
friend of the show. He's been on the show more than anybody, right?
Big time. Him and Ryan Blaney. Yeah. I think they're neck and neck, but yeah.
Maybe we'll have
Let's
to get him on
head
talk
to-
about it.
We should, that would be so cool to get them both on. I know
Yes,
they're
at the same time.
different makes and models and all that stuff. but
Different
that's
makes
okay.
and models and different portions of their career now at this point. One's a Cup Series champion. The other one's still trying to get that Xfinity Series title. It's been so elusive.
Yep.
But it's interesting to see where they've both come since they started interviewing with you.
But they do have something in common sometimes, and that's the beard.
That's true. Yeah, they do have that going for them sometimes. Different colored beards, but beards nonetheless.
There you go. Let's head to Bristol Motor Speedway. Sans the dirt, finally. Thank goodness that gimmick is over. Race number 5 of 36, up for grabs, about $8.1 million. Track is 0.533 miles in length, banking up to 28 degrees. Front and back stretches are equidistant, no matter what anyone else says, including Toby and some other weird random fan, 650 feet each. Race length 500 laps or 266.5 miles. Stages 1 and 2 are 125 laps each, and the final stage weighing in at 250 laps. What do we got here? Playoff Bristol winner was Denny Hamlin, and they don't have last year's winner. Who
Well,
was
that's because
the-
it was dirt race, so it didn't matter.
Oh, so they're getting rid of that too. Okay.
Yeah. So for last year with Hamlin, that was the race where he said, I beat your favorite drivers. So
Yes, I remember.
that was the big one. So we'll see how things go this time around. That was, of course, at night. It was in the playoffs. So we'll see how things go this time around.
So I wonder if these stats that NASCAR is hitting us with is
Those should
pavement
only be pavement. It should
Yeah.
not be. Yeah, I believe they've completely separated dirt into its own track, even though it's the same facility.
Well, it kind of was. So that
Yeah,
makes
so
sense.
you shouldn't see any dirt wins on there for anybody.
So let's see here. Trying to find the lowest amount of wins. I guess that'd be Kyle Larson, believe it or not, has 1 win, 5 top 5s, 10 top 10s, and a pole. Then you got
Yeah.
Joey Logano has 2 wins. Brad Keselowski has 3 wins. Denny Hamlin also has 3 wins. And then you got the big dog. I mean, no one's even close. Kyle Busch with 8 wins at Bristol
Yeah, the only
Motor
one that
Speedway.
was close to him was his brother, and his brother's since retired at this point.
Right.
So it's all Kyle all the time. And as we said, he's had a lot of speed going into this race. Just needs to execute on pit road and himself. He can't make any errors on the track. And you'd imagine he would play into the factor of who would win this thing. Even when it was the dirt race, he won one of those. So Kyle Busch is very good at Bristol. I think he's got to have confidence coming into this race. And another guy like Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher, for that matter. Chris Buescher won at Bristol a couple years ago when they first started the RFK team name. So I think the RFK cars are something that could be strong this week as well.
That's weird. He's not listed here anyway.
That's strange. Yeah, he won 2 Septembers ago.
I believe you. I just don't see it here. That's weird.
Interesting.
So what's the deal with Kurt Busch? Didn't I see something this week or in the last week from him?
So he was hinting at possibly returning. Nothing's been made official. I would imagine if he returns, it would probably be maybe with more of the Toyota aligned Xfinity or truck programs. And if that goes well, I would say maybe you could see him down the road in the 67, 23, 11 car at some point in Cup.
Has he
for a
been
few-
cleared?
That's the thing. So we don't really know. He hasn't told us.
Oh,
Back at Daytona, when he was there, it didn't seem likely that was going to be happening.
Wow.
We'll see. But again, things are an ever-changing thing. You don't really ever know with these kind of situations with Dale Jr. when he had his concussion like that. It was kind of a moving target each week. Some weeks he was better, some weeks he wasn't. You just don't really know until finally things are clear. So until I hear him say something, I'm not going to go with he'll be back, but we'll see.
Remind me what happened. Didn't he back into the fence at Pocono or something like that?
Yeah. So during qualifying, and of course the big thing for him was he was trying to become. It was second round of qualifying, and he was at 29 career poles. He's trying to get into that elusive 30 wins, 30 pole club in the Cup Series, which he highly ranks in his hierarchy of importance. So he really wanted that pole that day. Backed into the wall there, and of course, this being the first year with the next gen car when he did it, back ends were super stiff. Even just nudging a car down the straightaway in those things were hurting drivers. Like they were feeling it really badly. So it didn't look like much of an incident, but it was pretty massive, and it's obviously had lasting effects on Kurt and the possibility of him even racing a race car ever again. So big stuff there.
You hate to see that. You hate to see a career like his go down like that.
Yeah, he's a guy that was so competitive for so many different teams over so many different eras of the sport in so many different situations. And like you said, it's you want to see a guy like that go out on his own terms, the way he wants to go out, and that's obviously not what he envisioned for the exit of his career for sure.
I think we're done. I think we did a bang up job on this one.
Man, we hit a lot of different topics this week. I feel like we did a good job. I'm with you on that one.
All right. Well, good. We're on the same page then. So let's wrap things up. Checkered flag flying on the show. This has been the Final Lap Weekly. Catch us next week right here when we will recap the racing at Bristol Motor Speedway on the pavement and preview, I can't believe this already, road course racing at COTA, Circuit of the Americas, and all the stories in between. Toby, you and I will chat next week.
We sure will. And we've got ourselves a new Patreon member.
Oh, we're going to find out that next. All right, giant list of Patreon paying people and a new member right now from Toby Christie.
That's right. We've got Ray Moore. Thank you, Ray, for being part of the group. We appreciate you, man. Joining Aaron Spinelli as our latest two patrons. We appreciate both you guys. We also appreciate Devin. We mentioned him at the top of the list at our Only at Mattress Giant level tier, one of the sponsors. Thank you, Devin. We've got Lalo as well. We've got Louisville Max, Robert Keene, Mr. Jimmy B, Jimmy James, 1983. Thank you, Jimmy. We've got Quentin Whitaker, my buddy from Daytona. Very cool dude. Always awesome to run into him at the racetrack. I might run into him at Talladega, I think. So, see how that goes. Simon Green from across the pond. We've got Troy Clark from Down Under. Thank you, Troy and Simon, for contributing to the show from overseas. Thanks, guys. We've also got Peter Johansson, David Reed, Joe Bike, the original patron, the guy who decided to do this before anyone else even thought it was a thing. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you. Evan Taylor, Mike Hamilton, Nick Reed, Scott Clark, Alex Taylor, Justin Kapasinskis, huge Kyle Larson fan over there. So I'm sure he's hoping to see Larson get that second Bristol win this weekend. And of course, Charles K. Miller, the longest tenured listener of this here radio show. Nobody has ever listened to more episodes of the Final Lap Weekly than Charles K. Miller. Thank you, Charles. And thank you, everybody else on this here show and list. Thanks, everyone. Back to you, Kerry.
If you find value in what we're doing each and every week here and you want to throw us a couple of dollars, that'd be awesome. And you could do that. Join in on the giving fun over there at patreon.com/thefinallap. We totally appreciate it.
We do. And good stuff. It's going to be Bristol. Bristol, man. I'm excited.
Bristol, baby!